get ready to wrap up the first half of Unit 12. We're almost there, people. The first part here is, oh my, is all stuff we've been doing for this past week and a half or so. So we got note stuff to help us in the first part. Well, they happen sometimes. It just happens that way at times. I can't tell you. So here, 12.1, solving quadratic equations. Okay. No x term, no parentheses. That looks like me. Okay. So this actually kind of looks exactly like this one. So let's kind of see what's happening here. So job number 1, get the x squared by itself. So it looks like there's 2 things I'm going to have to do. This is the first one because that's what's not in the box. How do I undo that? Plus 9. Plus 9. All right. Let's get that out of there. All right. Still don't have x squared by itself. How do I dump the 3? Divide by 3. So we're still kind of first semester equation stuff. Okay, now we get to big person math here. How do I undo squared? Square root. You're right. So here, the squared cancels the square root, but remember, because of that 2, there's 2 answers, plus and minus. And the square root of 9, if you weren't sure, it is 3. But again, second and x squared will get me there too, and I can do that. So positive 3 and negative 3. Okay, straight off here. Just saying. What if there's parentheses? Okay. I have help. And again, you may even notice as we start to do some of these.
Thank you.
Yeah. As you look at these, and then maybe if you go back and take a peek at some of the other practice and stuff, you're probably going to find just with the notes you can do this. But again, that's why we put options out there for you. So I kind of look, I'm like, okay, my radicals alone. Next job, get rid of the squared. So there it goes. Plus or minus, again, the 64, I can punch it in my calculator, or if I know it off the top of my head, we can get that down. But for this one, since we don't have x completely alone yet, we're going to break this up into pieces. So one with the positive 8, and then the other equation with the negative 8, just like we did on this one. And just like we did on this one, I'm going to take the one thing that's with x and I'm going to do the opposite of it. Sounds like a plan to me. And I get there. So there, you know, having my notes, okay, that helped me. I mean, I kind of could just go back and forth even, so I don't think I'd need the review there. So let's see. 12.1, 12.2, excuse me, did part 1. All right, completing the square. I'm gonna move this up a little. So let's see here. Show your work, all right. We've been doing this now for 3 days, so I'm gonna put my notes here. But to be honest, if I've been doing the stuff, this shouldn't be too bad. So my first job, the X's want to hang out on their own. They're like, 30, you don't have an X. You need to go bye-bye. We'll make this happen. So now that the X's are alone, we're going to put a blank on each side of our equation, just like we did here. That blank gets filled the same way every time. We're going to divide our b by 2, and we're going to square it. So, here's my b value. It's always the one in front of x. So we're going to take that. We're going to divide it by 2. And we're going to square it. So once I do that, okay, simplify the right side, just 30 plus 25. The right side, to get what goes in here, I just want half a b. So I want half a 10. I want half a positive 10, which is positive 5. So if I did side work over here, it's just the number that's in parentheses. That's what I'm going to stick here. And now, what's that? What, I added it to 30 and put it here? It's in here. So you're like, wait, what? That 25? It is, because let me just show you a little something here on the side. Yeah, because if I multiplied this out. Okay, hang on. Slow down. And my exponents. Multiply. We've done this when we did factoring. So we're multiplying all the pieces together. So these two things are the same. I know it looks a lot different because you're like, I don't see the other numbers, but they're there. And so once we get here, now it's just the same situation that we had up here. So we're gonna square root. Now 55, that's not going to come out as nice. We're going to go to the nearest tenth. So we're just going to go to one decimal place if it doesn't come out nice. And just like we did up here, we're going to split this up. We're going to use positive 7.4 on one of them. We're going to use negative 7.4 on the other. And now it's just the one opposite step.
Wait, it's easier to
7.4 minus 5. 2.4. And negative 7.4 minus 5. Negative 12.4. I mean, it looks like there's a ton of work, but it's the same work every single problem. So that should simplify some things up for us. And the only difference between these when we go to do them is going to be the last step. There's actually going to be less work, which is nice. But I still have got my help here if I need it. So, first job, we're going to make this y, because that's just a little easier to work with. Other than that, we're going to do the exact same thing we did up here. I need these alone. Plain old number, you got to go. But remember, y is going to do a disappearing act. Y will be back later. But for now, okay, here's my example. Yeah, it's why we got to stay locked in. And now, well, so now it's just what we've been doing before. Here's my b value. My b value's, whoops, my b value is off the screen. Now it isn't. Is negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3 in parentheses Because if you don't use parentheses, it's going to say -9, and your blanks will never, ever, ever be negatives. Never, people. So here, again, here we took half of b. We took half of 10, we got 5. Here, b is -6. What's half of -6?
3.
-3. But now we're not going to take the square root. This is where, and I'm going to pull my help back up again here. This is where the 1 is allowed to come back over. And when that happens, since the 1 is gone, that makes y happy. Y makes its triumphant return to the left side.
Yeah.
Because the 1 moved over to here. That is your vertex form. And so your vertex itself is the opposite of the value in here. So the opposite of -3 is +3. And we keep the 1 on the outside, so we keep the -1. That's right. And the x value of your vertex and the x value of your axis of symmetry are one and the same. So again, even if it gets to be quiz day and you're you get into the middle and then you forget something, show me as much as you can. I can usually find some points in some places. Just saying. Okay, let's see what else we got rolling here. Oh, we're back to last unit. Now, again, if you have last unit's notes, feel free to use them. They're still posted on Classroom. So if you've got your copy laying around, go for it. But I'm going to pretend I don't have my copy. And I'm going to try and remember some things. Or maybe, just maybe, I look around and I'm like, look at all this blank space in my notes. I might take something that Hardy mentions here or right here and maybe put it in my notes because the notes is like free to use. So just saying. Factor by the greatest common factor. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the biggest number that divides in. And I'm looking for the smallest exponent if everything has a variable. So I start to peek around. And I'm like, okay, 8 and 20. Yep, the biggest number I see in both boxes is 4. So we're going to take out a 4. The smallest exponent I see on either of my terms is x squared. So right there, even if I stopped and did nothing more in the problem, I've gotten my credit for that part. But I want more points. So now we're dividing. 8 divided by 4 is 2.
That's fine. 2x.
And 3 minus 2 is 1. So when I get to here, 20 divided by 4 is 5. And 2 minus 2 is 0. There's no more x's. So that one I just leave. That one's done. So when I get here, we're dividing to fill. We're dividing the bigs, subtract the littles. Divide bigs, subtract.
Is that the inverse 4x?
That's the one right there. That's it. No equals, nothing to solve, just straight up. Get that GCF out of there and we'll call it a day. And so again, if I'm not sure, factoring by grouping, okay, we got our parentheses rolling here. Each set of parentheses we're going to do the exact same way we did number 1 here. So I look and I'm like, all right, let's see here. 9 and 21. Looks like 3 is the biggest one. So we'll take a 3. Smallest exponent, as long as they both have variables, will get us a 2. And now we're in division mode. 9 divided by 3. 3 minus 2. 21 divided by 3. 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay, so no x's. So now I look and I go, okay, if I remember back, I remember the hint is when I get to the end, my next set of parentheses should be the same thing again, if I've done this right. So we're going to see. So I'm going to cover this up for just a minute because we got to find our numbers here. 21 and 49. Biggest number in both lists is 7. Can I take an x out this time? Not this time, because this doesn't have x. It's got to be both. 21 divided by 7 is 3. There's still an x there. 49 divided by 7 is 7. That's what I wanted. But don't stop. To get my final answer, yeah, I'm going to take my leftovers here on the outside. We're going to put those in one set of parentheses. And the common set of parentheses we have is going to go in the other one. And that's it. So again, if I can get this one, I can definitely get this one. We're kind of getting a little momentum rolling here. And so I go a little further. I'm like, dang, there's a lot of Unit 11 here. All right, factoring trinomials. This is the one where we're working, where we multiply to get the C value, but the same numbers have to add up to get the B value. And so what we were always looking at before, and I'm not going to write all that here again. If you want to see what that is, to think maybe if you want to jot it on a sheet, you'd go back to the Unit 11 notes on Classroom. You can find stuff there to jot down. But this sign tells me a lot. That plus there tells me that either my signs are both going to be plus or they're both going to be minus. Because those are the two ways I can get a positive product. The sign in the middle tells me which one. Because we're spiraling stuff back through towards the end here, so when we get to the final, we've seen everything recently. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to pull our chart back out. So I need a pair here that I can add up to 12, which would be 4 and 8. Because 4 times 8, negative 4 times negative 8, is positive 32. What's that? Nope. If I've got them in reverse order, since the signs are the same, we're good. Because now I look and I can test it. Negative 8 times negative 4 was positive 32. Negative 8 plus negative 4 is negative 12. That's it. That's what we're looking for. Now, before we start the next one, quick question here. Yeah, is there anything that all these have in common? Always test out the number in front as you're going and see how this is going to work. Thank you. Right. Get that rolling. All right, so we're going to take that 5 out. So we're just going to divide all these by 5. And again, my calculator, that's what it's here for. I just happen to know, so I'm rolling it through here. What's that? Yep.
Wait, so since it's minus and the plus together, what's plus being equal to?
So, good question. So here, since my C value is 24, I know one is going to be plus and one is going to be minus. It really, in this particular case, does not matter which one goes where, because I'm still trying to figure out what multiplies to negative 24, but it's going to add to 5. So let me grab my chart again. Which pair of numbers here is 5 apart that can get me to 5 somehow? 3 and 8. This sign tells me that's the sign of the bigger number. So the 8's going to get the plus, the 3 is going to get the minus. Whether you have minus 3 here and plus 8 there does not matter, but the plus has to be on the 8, because otherwise that'd be minus 5 in the middle. Whatever this sign is, that's the bigger number. Yep. Again, as long as it's got the right sign, we're okay. But what happens if there's nothing in common and there's a number in front? So here, little different. Whatever number you see in front, that's going to be my first one. So just saying, for over here on number 2, just as an FYI, that will start with 3x, because 3 is the number in front. But that's only after you've already tested to see if anything's going to divide into all of them. That's just not going to work on these particular 2. So now, this is where we bust out the pencil if we haven't been doing this before. Because now, I got to look and I got to go, okay, so 25. They are both going to be plus. I'm with you on that. So I'm going to start, let's say I started with 1 and 25. And I'm like, all right, so 1 and 25. Remember, this is the one where I'm looking to see that if I multiply the insides and the outsides together, do I get the number in the middle? I don't think 1 plus 50 is getting me to 15. So that did not work. So let's not do that. What if I switch them? If I switch them, there's 25. That's 2. 25 and 2 get me to 15. No. All right. So I guess 25 and 1 don't work. Let's try 5 and 5, because that's my next option. 5x, 10x, 5x and 10x gets me 15x. Ding, 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 ding. That's the one. So, I mean, sometimes I'll guess the right one right away, and that's nice. But if it's not, that's the game we're playing. And we're just going to keep playing it until we get to the answer. Now, when I get to number 2, little different situation. My C is still positive. But this time, my middle term's negative. So they're both going to be negative. So I look. And I go, okay. I don't know. Let's try. What should we try? Are we trying 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? Let's try 2 and 2. Okay. So I got negative 2x. I got negative 6x. If I add those up, negative 8x, negative x, 8x, ding, ding, ding. That's why we use a pencil on those, because we're going to have to adjust sometimes, like we did on number 1. Number 2, we got lucky. We got it first.
You did 2 and 2.
Anything that multiplies to that. So those were my only choices of pairs. Something in there was going to help me get to that 8 in the middle. Almost there, people. Sure. All right, the wrap's up on 11 here. Perfect square. Oh, perfect squares. Hang on a minute. Now, if you've been working with us on the note things, we actually, when we were doing completing the square, put these back in on the current notes. But now you're seeing that even comes in handy on the review. So just saying. Because now I can look and say, hey, 49 is a perfect square. The number below it will tell me what I square to get it. 1's a perfect square. The number below me is going to tell me what I need to get it. And now I just got to remember the pattern, which is 7x is first, just like it is there. 1 is second, just like it is there. And to get the multiply number to be negative 1, 1's positive, 1's negative. And it does not matter which one you put positive and which one you put negative. You could. As long as the second one's positive, you're okay. And the last one, same thing.
Yeah, it says 49x.
Because the square root of 49 is 7.
I know, but you took away 1x. From there.
No.
It says where you x to the second and go 7x to the first.
Over here,
Yeah.
So what are you getting?
x times x is x squared, though.
Oh,
Yeah. And so over here, with them both being perfect squares again, 64 turns into 8. Don't lose your x, because it has x squared there. 9 becomes 3. And this time, almost forgot my second set of parentheses. Same idea. 8x first. I'll show you. 3 goes second. But here, the sign in the middle will tell you what to put. Because here my C value is positive, so my signs have to be the same. And that tells me what sign. I don't want a plus and a minus here. That would change my problem completely. So it's got those set. And then to wrap. To put the wrapping on this. Okay, factor each. This is stuff we've already done on prior problems. So if you've done it before, you're good. Factor each, then compare the methods. Okay. Does anything go into 8 and 10? 2. So we're going to pull out 2. They both have variables.
X2.
I want the smaller one, x2.
4x2 plus 5.
And now we're just dividing. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And subtract. Okay, so that one is done. Over here, I'm seeing exactly what I saw right above it. 100 becomes 10. 1 is still 1. And if I'm using that as my comparison, I'm like, all right, so the 10x goes first. The 1 goes second. And again, it's that sign in the middle. So there's the majority of your points on this question, but there's one last piece. You're like, wait, what's this for 8x? But if you look at the titles where you found help on these, I'll be back just a second. Factor by GCF, I took something in common out. Found a GCF, okay, factor a common factor out. Whereas with this one, I factored perfect squares. I mean, it literally tells me up here in the title. So I don't have to think a whole lot on this. I just got to find what section I was looking at, and I have it. So this review we got faster through than the last one, even with Hardy running his mouth, which I'm very good at. So again, Hardy's suggestion.